Okay, let's get started here. Last session in module 3, or in test 3, discrimination and harassment. Now, we get this from HR on a regular basis, or training on this from HR on a regular basis anyway. So this is pretty basic and short. So, implement policies to prevent discrimination and harassment. Types of discrimination and harassment. U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, otherwise known as the EEOC, differentiates between the following types of discrimination and harassment. Age discrimination treats applicants or employees differently based on their age. Disability, involving treating an applicant or employee with a disability less favorably. Equal pay compensations requires people who perform the same work and are substantially equal in skill and responsibility receive equal compensation. Genetic information, which is a new one, prohibits employment discrimination based on genetic information about an applicant. And harassment, unwelcome conduct towards a protected class that creates a hostile work environment. So the genetic information one is all about insurance and keeping people out of the pool that have genetic problems. National origin involves treating an applicant employee less favorably based on their being from a particular part of the world. Pregnancy, treating an employee less favorably based on their being pregnant. Race or color. Religion, treating less favorably based on religious beliefs. Retaliation. So laws prohibit reprimanding applicants or employees for asserting their rights to be free from discrimination. You can't retaliate against them if they file a complaint. Sex involves treating an applicant or employee less favorably based on their sex. And then sexual harassment, unwelcome physical or verbal sexual conduct that is perceived as a condition of employment or creates a workplace environment that's hostile. So applicable laws, protected classes following our United States laws related to employment. So the Equal Pay Act of 1963, people who perform the same work receive equal pay. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 makes it illegal to discriminate among employees on the basis of race, religion, color, sex, or national origin. And they're using this law to base the sexual harassment legality on. This law also created the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Executive Order 11246 from President Johnson prohibits discrimination in federal employment on the basis of race, religion, color, national origin, and sex. And then there's the Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967, restricts employers from discriminating in the employment and termination of individuals who are over 40 years old. This has been a problem because people that are older than 40 usually make more money and have more health issues, which causes insurance to go up. And then the Equal Opportunity Act of 1972 gives the EEOC, which was created in the 64 law, the authority to sue in federal courts when it finds reasonable cause to believe there's been employment discrimination. The National Labor Relations Act of 1935 grants the individuals the right to organize and bargain collectively. So that was 35 that created the unions. And then in 47, this was under a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress. 47, we're under a Democratic president, but a Republican Congress. And they had the Taft-Hartley Act, which restricts activities of the power of labor unions. So this is a Republican response to this Democratic Act of 35, and President Truman, who was a Democrat, vetoed the legislation and they overrode it in Congress. So the Taft-Hartley Act was seen as a means of demobilizing the labor movement by imposing limits on labor's ability to strike and prohibiting radicals communists at the time, from their leadership. So the OSHA law of 1970 prohibits work from being performed under conditions that are dangerous or unsanitary. And in 1983, OSHA issued the Federal Hazard Communication Standard, requiring all hazardous materials the right to know act. Focuses on 5 key areas: identify, product warning labels, which is the SDS, used to be called the MSDS, emergency response techniques, written hazard communication standard, and employee training. That's from 83. Then the Americans with Disabilities Act, passed under the first George W. Bush, requires companies with at least 25 employees to make reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities, and you can't discriminate against them. And then the GINA, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act from 2008, prohibits employment discrimination based on genetic information about a person. So like if you got cancer genes or something like that. And then PACCAR has their non-discrimination policy, SP2, which is, look up here, hopefully it works. Yeah, maybe not today. I'll come back to it. Anyway, SP2. Other countries' international laws. So the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights in 1966, modeled in the UN after the US Civil Rights Act. Mexico Federal Labor Law and Law Reform Act of 2012. Employment Relations Act 99 from the UK. The EU has the Treaty of Amsterdam. Canada has the Employment Equity Act of 86. Employment Promotion Law of the People's Republic of China, and the Labor Law of the People's Republic of China. So even China has some non-discrimination laws. Organizational policies and procedures. The direction should be established at the senior management level, and the policies should reflect that the organization will adhere to all federal, state, and local laws related to fair and equal treatment. I don't know if I got this thing working yet. Oh, well, I can't reach that page right now. All right. Court rulings pertaining to employment discrimination. Different regions, US regions, have court rulings that reflect their region. Interesting enough. These rulings may be stricter than the US federal laws related to employment discrimination. They can't be looser. Diversity training. Each organization should have a program geared toward meeting its specific needs. So multinational corporations should have awareness about their cultures and practices, which we do here at PACCAR. And companies should have diversity and cultural sensitivity training, which includes focus on goals and behaviors to increase its effectiveness, and attach diversity training to performance metrics. So here at PACCAR, I think it's every 2 years you have to go through the slides and review the questions and all that good kind of stuff and get 100% or so on your test. Unconscious bias. This refers to prejudices we have but are unaware of. Some of the more common types of unconscious bias include things like the affinity bias, so the tendency to like people that look like us or have similar backgrounds. So the corporation is run by all old white dudes that are over 6 feet. That's an affinity bias. The halo effect, tendency to like people because of one great characteristic they have, such as they're really good looking, or they're a good athlete, or things like that. Perception bias, tendency to develop stereotypes or assumptions about a particular group. And we all have stereotypes. That's just a shorthand for processing information. Question is, are you aware of the stereotypes that you work with or not? Confirmation bias, tendency for people to seek information that confirms pre-existing beliefs or assumptions. And the contrast effect, tendency for people to make comparisons, especially when going through a large amount of information. This is kind of like perception and stereotypes. It just helps us process large amounts of information. We all do it, you just got to be aware of it. Suggest remedies to stop unconscious bias from influencing decision, focus on skills and eliminate distractions, let the numbers speak for themselves, look at statistics and talk about it when you notice unconscious bias. All right. The U.S. Act that covers intentional offenses, including sexual harassment, providing monetary damages, is it's not the Equal Pay Act. Could be federal civil rights, Equal Opportunity Act of 72. I don't think so. That's the one that gave them the ability to sue. The National Labor Relations Act now. It's got to be B. B it is. All right. Supply manager wants to ensure that all members of the procurement team abide by the organization's anti-discrimination policies. In this situation, the best course of action for the supply manager to take would be to what? Avoid recruiting and hiring procurement staff based on internal referrals. I don't think that's going to help you any. Direct team members to familiarize themselves with the anti-discrimination policies. Yeah. Whether they do or not is another question. Discourage team members from socializing with each other outside of the office. Yeah, no. And provide a method for team members to report incidents of perceived discrimination. That's probably the most effective of the four here. So let's go with D. Yeah, I really disagree with you. For effective organization policies related to discrimination, the direction should be established at senior management level. Organizations should ensure that the policies are well known and understood. That's not exactly what that said. Option D is incorrect. Well, it's important for employees to know how to report incidents. This is not the best way to ensure team members abide by the policies, nor is B, but okay. All right. There are 6 questions out there. So go ahead and start working them and raise your hand when you get done. All right, let's go over some answers here. Number 1 is Delta, National Labor Relations Act. 2 is Bravo, illegal discrimination occurs when one has an adverse impact on a protected group and irrelevant criteria are used in employment decisions. 3 is Charlie. As a global company, RTV's Human Resources Department should provide guidance on laws. Why wouldn't it be legal? Well, RTV's legal department would know of employment laws and regulations. It's not like to have information applying those. Yeah, I disagree with you. All right. 4 is Bravo, Equal Pay Act. 5 is Charlie. So he's concerned is the employer is informing the supervisor the first time, multiple jokes. But basically, what supervisor wants to do is follow the company procedure. And 6 is Alpha. Human Resources Department is typically involved in a decision to expand to an offsite or international location. All right. We got a few more days of questions and then we're done.